Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Elitist Geek VR news for Saturday, November 12th, 2016. Let's jump right into VR, guys. I want to apologize up front. Been losing my voice today, so you see me take a few extra schlocks. It is because of the throat, not because I have a especially extra tasty beer, although that would normally be a good enough reason. But yeah, as you can hear, my voice is definitely on the bad side of the equation. So first thing I want to talk about is Robinson the Journey. Kind of closed the book on that game. I finished it last night. Maintained pretty much all aspects of what I said, including it not being worth $79.99. Finally figured out that price, and the reason was the retailers had an agreement ahead of time for the $49.99. So chalk it up to me being impatient, lesson learned, loud and clear, $30 lesson. And I'm just going to chalk it up, like I said, as a learning experience and a big-ass tip to the folks at Crytek, hopefully towards, well, maybe paying their current project off and hopefully a future project in VR. But yeah, the game definitely picked up pacing, definitely more adrenaline-filled moments than the beginning. But I gotta say, the puzzle element just drove me bonkers. By the end of it, I was so ready to never see it again. They should have varied up the puzzle aspects. Having to do that connect the wire thing, it was okay the first time, maybe the second time, but when you've done it half a dozen to a dozen times, guys, we get it. And please try something new next time. All right, HTC Vive release list. It's a weekly one that Upload VR generally puts up for both Rift and Vive. The Vive list was the more comprehensive of the two this week. The Rift one actually pretty paltry. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of things on there. The first one, speech trainer from Wolf in Motion. So this is designed from the ground up as an application to help you overcome fears, anxiety, confidence issues in giving presentations, right? Public speaking in front of a group. Now, personally, I love public speaking. I know that sounds pretty twisted, but I'm a theater guy. I love improv, done lots of improv in theater. I love it. But I'm also an introvert. The part that I don't like, if I'm giving a speech at a business conference, say, I'm okay with the presentation, it's the mingling afterwards that just drives me batty and depletes all energy. So I get it. I get the people who are not comfortable public speaking. I just get it in a different way. So anyone who has that as an issue and it, has either tried or will try speech trainer, I would love to hear feedback. Because to me, the audience didn't look crazy realistic. Doesn't mean it can't help. That was just kind of my first impression. So I would love to hear from you. Next up, Z code or Z code for people who pronounce it that way. It's a mech game from a Chinese company, which is very, very long. I'm not even going to try to pronounce, especially with my throat right now. Won't turn out pretty, but it's no secret I love mech games. Mech games are easily one of my favorite genres, specifically the RPG light style, right? Like Mech Warrior Mercenary. Basically the Elite Dangerous equivalent of a mech game. I would drop everything and I would pour hundreds of hours into it. That would be my next dream game, since I've already received Elite Dangerous and I'm looking forward to Star Citizen. It would be a mech game. So Z code looks to be more arcadey based, which again, not my favorite, but I'm okay with that. Shogo Mobile Armor Division, for example, still one of my favorite arcadey mech based games. So yeah, check that out if you're interested. That's Z code, and that is available this week on the VR store. Next up, we have a tower defense game called QueenDoom. So admittedly not the most original title, but it is a tower defense game, and they are certainly well represented in virtual reality, regardless of platform. In fact, you may say they are overrepresented because there's so many, damn many of them. Now, QueenDoom looks good. It certainly comes across as very tower defense-y though. So if you don't like that, probably not for you. If you do, give it a shot, check it out. Now, one of my favorite, and probably the granddaddy of tower defense games, would be Gandalf the Sorcerer for the Commodore 64. The prototypical tower defense game, and still amazing, even in 2016. If you haven't played it, man, get yourself the Vice emulator, get the ROM for this, and give it a shot. It holds up really, really well. Graphics are a little dated, absolutely, but unless you really care about graphics over gameplay, I'm pretty sure you would like it if you like tower defense. Okay, so like I said, the Rift list by comparison is a little more paltry, maybe 2-3 games on it, and essentially covers the same as the ones I've just talked about. But I've included the link if you want to check it out nonetheless. All right, so on to news. First news article comes to us via Upload VR, and it's titled How Media Companies Will Make Money in VR. Interesting article written by Aaron Frank. He's principal faculty at Singularity University, where he lectures on augmented and virtual reality. So check that out. One of the topics in the article is the Foo Show. Now, I had not heard of this, but I certainly looked into it after I had heard of it. And yeah, it looks very, very cool and very powerful in that it's virtual reality talk show, but you're free as an audience member to walk around. Hell, you can go on stage, put your face in the grill of the host, essentially be a complete asshat if that's what you want to do. It's open season on all of that. But with that said, it's a really good format for developers in virtual reality to showcase projects that they're working on. Very cool, very nifty for exactly that. And definitely need some more beer because the voice is going. So yeah, it really allows for participation, especially devs who are showcasing things that they're working on virtual reality. They can really get that audience participation, feedback early on, etc. Next up, we have a review on Road to VR for the Oculus Earphones and a comparison with regular ultra high-end earbuds. So what these do is they replace the over-the-ear standard Rift earphones. And you can see on the rail, there's two kind of spots where those adjustable earphones plug into. You remove those, put the units with the earbud in their place, and that's essentially how you switch it. Now, with that said, the author really liked the units. He went on, he did, like I said, a full-on review, listed the pros and cons. Pros, he's listed the earphones or earbuds are noise isolating, so it makes it a lot easier to hear ambient VR noises that you would otherwise miss, right? Also, no earlobe pressure, easy to install. To me, it kind of looked worrying, but reassuring when you read that. They are $49. Now, I don't list that as a pro or a con. I just list it as the price. And they will ship December 6th, so you can do the pre-order via Amazon or the Oculus Store. Cons, people definitely will have a harder time communicating with you because of the isolation features. They're going to have to yell a little bit more to get your attention, especially if you're a little tone deaf to begin with, like me. So keep that in mind. Yeah, there's also more pressure on the ear canal, slightly longer setup time, and of course, the hygiene aspect. So if you're somebody who doesn't care about that, who cares? If you do, and you swap frequently with others, keep that in mind. You are basically going to have to do a little bit of cleaning that wouldn't be necessary, with the previous headphones or the default stock ones, better said. But check that out, the review link below. Next, we have Forbes' best and worst feature list for the new Google Daydream. Basically, a consolidation of most of the things we've talked about here on the channel without ever having tested them. But The best features are listed as design and comfort, device support, the controller. So we've covered most of those. The worst, the narrow field of view, lack of content, both of which we've covered. But the third, screen door effect. That one kind of surprises me a little bit. You wouldn't think it would be that much more noticeable, but apparently it is. That is something that the future is just going to remedy naturally, organically, because resolutions are only going to get higher. And screen door effect is generally as a result of resolution. All right, next news article has to do with Europe's VR community doubling over the past year. So very good news, but not really a surprise if you think about it. So we get a lot of news coming out of Asia, and sometimes I kind of lump Australia in there. I know it's a separate continent, but, impact-wise, they generally kind of come across on the same spectrum, or even North America with where they're situated. So it's not that I'm ignoring them. It's just sometimes when I talk about North America or I talk about Asia, they're kind of lumped in automatically, right? But I'll try to do a better job of indicating if it's something that's Aussie or Kiwi specific, right? But going back to the European statistics, yeah, essentially a doubling. And look at the content coming out of Europe. So you've got those two Turkish brothers, Crytek. They're headquartered in Germany. You have lots of VR conferences this year. They just finished the VR Days Europe in Amsterdam, which was a big hit and massive turnout of people. And then you've got the whole UK side of the equation as well. So lots of VR content, news, happenings coming out of Europe. That statistic does not surprise me in the least. Next up, VR Scout has a 10 recent VR and AR investments you should know about article. Most of these we've covered. A couple I wasn't quite as aware of breakdown-wise. For example, Razer. We think of them as the keyboard, mouse, earphone company. Not so much, the pioneer for a lot of VR stuff, but for funding, they've just done a fantastic job for VR funding and, VR-relevant news items. For example, Z Ventures, a $30 million US fund Razer was instrumental in setting up. It's not just VR, it's also robotics, but a good chunk of it is virtual reality gaming / experiences. Next news item, Christmas is set to see a doubling of VR headsets in British households. Now, the statistics that retailer Carphone Warehouse has looked up and is basing this on are pretty shocking. 5% of British households, and I'm going to say quote unquote on this, which I hate doing, but quote unquote, some form of VR in the house. So that leaves it pretty open. So you've got your Cardboard, Gear VR, Rift, Vive, PlayStation VR. But still, with that said, 1 in 20 British households. That's a pretty good figure. And that's set to double to 10% of British households by the end of 2017, which is even more shocking. But again, it depends on how you feel about statistics and polling, because that's what this is, of course, based on. But I've included the link. Have a read. Next and last, 360-degree video overview. Now, this is a fantastic couple of links here. The first one is basically everything we've ever covered about 360, whether it's, the video side of it, adult entertainment, gaming, media, the hardware behind it, 360-degree cameras, low-end, medium, high-end, tutorials, you name it, this list covers it. So fantastic first link. The second one covers CyberLink Power Director 15, which is all about editing in 360-degree content. So your stitching, etc. Also includes tools like View Designer that allows you to convert 360-degree content back into other formats, conventional formats. So you can manipulate them 16:9 2D, for example. But yeah, very cool. Price-wise as well, $70 for Power Director 15, which in my opinion is a very fair price for a very powerful piece of editing software. So powerful, in fact, it's pretty much had across-the-board rave reviews for it. But I haven't tried it, haven't spoken to anybody who has, so take it with a grain of salt, do your own research. If you can get a demo version of it, test that before you commit. Certainly, when I get a 360 camera, which I still haven't, I will be doing the same, despite how positive it sounds, right? Always good to get your own opinion formed. All right, guys, that is it for news on this Saturday. Again, apologies about my voice. Off to do some gaming now. Cheers, as always. Have a fantastic weekend, guys. Cheers, and catch you on the VR flip side.